Hi, I'm Dustin Abbott, and I'm here today to give you my final review, final verdict on the Zeiss Loxia 25mm F2.4 Distagon lens. Now, of course, the Loxia series is a series from Zeiss that is created solely for Sony, and it's designed for Sony FE, or full-frame mirrorless E-mount. And you can, of course, use it on APS-C, but really to get kind of your full advantage and take advantage of the way that they're designing these focal lengths, using it on full frame FE is your best option. I've reviewed it here on a Sony A7R Mark III, and as you can see, and we'll talk a little bit more about rig here a little bit, but I've got it set up a little bit for doing video work here, and that is one of the key kind of attractions of the Loxia series. Is they're not only great compact little stills lenses that work, produce really beautiful image qualities we're going to see, but of course they're all designed around some standardization to allow them to be easily used for video work. Now, if you missed my first look episode where I look at the build and the handling and all of these features, I recommend that you take a look at this episode here because I detail a little bit more kind of the dual nature of that, and I'm only going to hit a few highlights here. But obviously, this, if you don't know, the Loxia series is manual focus only. They have a manual aperture ring. They have a manual focus ring. The lenses do have electronic contacts, which means, for example, that if you begin to input movement on the actual manual focus ring, it will actually magnify where the active point is, and so it allows you to really quickly and easily nail focus. I mean, and I will note that I have other lenses outside the Loxia series that are manual focus only, and I was reviewing another manual focus only lens at the same time, and I will note that the Loxia series and the 25mm it's easier to use because of some of those things. For one thing, it's got a fantastic manual focus ring. As you can see, it's just really buttery smooth. I mean, it's a fantastic manual focus ring. Beyond that, however, because it does magnify that image, it allows you to very easily visually confirm focus, and so byproduct of that is that my keeper rate is basically 100%. And because it doesn't have a huge focus throw, you can even shoot a variety of subjects. It's actually surprising the amount of subjects you can nail focus on with a lens that's like this because of some of those qualities. The other thing here is that, as mentioned, it does have a manual aperture ring, and so there are two options with that manual aperture ring. The first is a traditional clicked mode, and it has 1/3 stop detents, and so extra precision there. But also, if you use either a little key from Zeiss or a small flat-bladed screwdriver, on the rear of the lens there is a little port that you can rotate, and if you turn that, it actually declicks the aperture. And so again, for video use, that makes it more effective, more easy to use. The other thing about the Loxia series, and part of the reason why we have a maximum aperture of f2.4, which is obviously not at all conventional, is that Zeiss is working around a standardization of these lenses. And so all of the Loxia series share essentially the same diameter around. They all share the same 52mm front filter thread. The byproduct of that is it's easy to set them up for gearing or for, here I've just got a quick add-on for doing focus pulls. And so it's easy to use with those things, and also to switch from lens to lens and kind of keep your standardized gearing intact. And so certainly really great for that. It makes swapping out lenses for different shots, different scenes easy to do. And of course, that standardization means that you can very easily go from one Loxia lens to another. They're also essentially standardized when it comes to their color accuracy and color rendition, and so they are kind of designed to use as a set, and they are designed to use in a hybrid nature. And so, for example, here, because the lens is lightweight and compact, it's easy to put together, and for one thing, it'd be easy to throw it onto a gimbal and to use it for that. Very easy to use for that kind of thing, and maybe kind of a preset type focal length, or you could mount, depending on your gearing, your gimbal. If you're using a two-handled one, you might even be able to add a gearing system on there. Now in this case, I've got a FieldWorld F5 monitor mounted on here, and so of course that helps for video work, and you could also mount that onto, you know, a gimbal type assembly. And so, you know, there's a lot of pros here for doing video type work that helps to make this a treat to use in those kinds of settings. Now in a secondary episode, we took a look at the image quality from the lens, and I would recommend that you take a look at that because I go into image quality in detail there, and time does not permit to do the same here. And so I will note, however, that there is a constancy in the Loxia series. I mentioned the consistency of the color, but it's also worth noting the excellence of the color. And when I'm using any other kind of lenses at the same time as the Loxia lenses, I've noted that I can always tell the images taken with Loxia lenses. They're just a little bit extra special when it comes to the color rendition. Colors are very deeply saturated and rich, great contrast, but without being over the top. They're not garish, they're accurate, and byproduct of that, as I noted in the image quality segment, is that for those of you that are fans of doing less post-processing work, and that's true whether you're shooting stills or video for that matter, it really gives you a lot of accuracy when it comes to that, and also a very rich end product that requires a little post-processing. Of course, you can post-process to taste, but if you're looking to not have to do a lot of it, it delivers great images right out of the camera, and so that's certainly a strength. Beyond that, I noted with the Loxia series, or particularly with the 25mm F2.4, that it's very sharp even at f2.4, and a little bit of a drop-off loss of contrast, or I should say not loss, but less contrast in the extreme corners, a little less resolution, but across the main portion of the frame, really sharp. And so if you're shooting other options where you don't need corner-to-corner sharpness, it's great because typically you're going to be composing. It's very easy to compose within the sweet spot, and images are really crisp. As you can see from a few of these examples, even wide open, you have really sharp, really high contrast images. If you stop down a little bit, f2.8, and then particularly on to f4, you start to achieve maximum image quality, and so you get really sharp results all across the frame. Beyond that, the 25mm f2.4 really exhibits that fantastic micro contrast that often Zeiss lenses are some of the best examples of. And so, for example, if you look at this image, this desert image here, you can see that even right down into the foreground, everything is really crisp, just really great details. Fine details are really nicely rendered, and so byproduct of that is that you have some really great results from that. The lens is also really highly flare resistant, and so it's great if you're working with some kind of backlit scene. It handles flare really quite well. It has a quite unique 10-bladed sun star if you have the aperture stopped down some. It also exhibits very low levels of Coma, and so it makes it an excellent lens for shooting the night sky. And f2.4, there's a little tiny bit of Coma, but if you stop down to f2.8, it's essentially entirely eliminated, and it makes for a great lens for shooting the night sky. Chromatic aberrations are well controlled, and I saw in a few really high contrast scenes, I saw just the faintest bit of CA, but for the most part, in most images, I didn't see any at all. Beyond that, it also has a fairly well controlled distortion, vignette, just a lot of good stuff going on for it. And so optically, really not a whole lot to complain about. And of course, as noted, it's great for shooting video. The perfectly damped focus ring means that if you're doing kind of handheld focus throws like these, it's able to get a really smooth result. And I will note that at the same time I was reviewing the Abbott 40mm f2 lens, and while of course the Abbott lens is much better when it comes to autofocus during video, since this is not an autofocusing lens, it's better for doing that. But when I tried to do something like this and I switched into manual focus, the focus by wire system on it was just brutal by comparison, mostly because it doesn't deliver repeatable results. Where you have a perfectly damped manual focus ring with nice hard stops, you're able to get really precise, really repeatable focus pulls. And so it's just a joy to use for those kinds of things, and makes video really kind of fun to do with that. And so just a lot of great things when it comes to the image quality from the lens. Now, kind of like the 85mm F2.4, these lenses, they pay the price a little bit in their unconventional maximum aperture for the standardization of the barrel dimensions of the lens, specifically the diameter. And so, F2.4 isn't likely to get anybody particularly excited in terms of an aperture value, but at the same time, the lens is very good, even at F2.4, and stop down, it's fantastic. And so it really kind of depends on what your priorities are, but if you're looking for something small and compact, easy to bring along, great for that. If you're looking for a video lens, fantastic for that. One final thing that I will highlight is the price, and that's where the wheels kind of come off for a lot of people. I mean, some people, the idea of a manual focus lens is off-putting to them, and as I noted, yeah, it is manual focus, but it's one of the easiest manual focus lenses out there to use, combined with a Sony camera body. But the price at $1,249 is anything but cheap. And so the reality is a lot of people will look at that and kind of look at it on paper and say it's just not worth it. And it's hard to argue whether a lens is worth it or not. I think that if you're actually kind of in the target audience for this particular lens, and you probably already know whether it's worth it to you or not, and you're kind of looking as to whether or not it lives up to its potential. I believe that it does, and much like the 21mm f2.8 Distagon, I think it's a really fantastic lens and gives you a wide angle of view in a beautifully compact package. And so, that may be worth the money to you. And that's a decision at the end of the day that only you can make. I'm Dustin Abbott, and if you look at my description down below, you can also see linkage to my full written review. Also links there to my image gallery, and I encourage you to go and look at photos, help you to make a decision through that. There's buying links if you'd like to purchase one for yourself. You can also follow me on social media, including now on Instagram. You can sign up for my newsletter. You can become a patron, and as noted, one of my new policies for my patrons is I'm giving them advanced screening of some of my content, and so they have a chance to look at it and interact with me before it is released to the public. So that might be something that might be worth it to you to become a supporter of this channel. And finally, if you haven't already, click that subscribe button. Please do so. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.